It is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's session, Lauren Darness, Business Development and Client Relationships with PiSrc. Lauren, you now have the floor.
Okay, thank you, Heather. I wanted to start by saying thank you to our hosts, Adobe, for working with us to hold these sessions. And thank you to everyone who's joining us. I hope everyone and their friends and families are safe and healthy. I understand how busy we've been this year, especially as we get ready for the holidays. So thanks again. PiSrc is a New York City-based tech firm that focuses on developing quality code. We are Adobe certified experts in Experience Cloud, and we focus on a range of digital marketing needs from the Experience Cloud stack, including Target, Launch, Analytics, Magento, and more, as well as SEO, applied AI, and enterprise applications and integrations. If you missed the first session, or if you haven't had the chance to catch up on the recording, don't worry, we'll provide a quick review. We spoke overall about web personalization, specifically for the anonymous user, and we spoke about questionnaires, why they're important, the potential impact they can have on an organization's digital experience for customers, and conversions when built and used properly, as well as the challenges with building questionnaires like determining the number and complexity of questions and much more. Today, we're taking the concepts from the first session and applying them when building a questionnaire form in Adobe Experience Manager. I'd like to introduce Inku, PiSrc's managing partner and expert in digital marketing technology and applied AI. He'll walk us through a recap of our previous session and drive us through the art of building a questionnaire in order to complete our portrait of the anonymous user. Take it away, Inku.
Thanks, Lauren. Appreciate people coming to this this webinar. If I know some of you are going to be joining us on just watching the video afterwards, but I wanted to refer people to PiSrc.com/questionnaire, where you can where there's a reference to the or link to the first part 1 video, and also we're going to post this video on there as well. Please share this link with your colleagues if you think that this might be of interest to them. Okay, so I want to start with a recap of highlights from part 1 and then build on that. And at the end, I want to go into a direct demo. So that's going to be exciting. The recap 1 is that, let me see, I have 4 things that I want to go over from last time. The first is that what we found was that, that organic search dominates inbound traffic, and the impact that it has on our ability to personalize is that the inbound traffic from organic search tends to be anonymous users. In fact, we saw that in this one report that over half of inbound web traffic are from organic search. I think anyone doing the analytics for their organization already knows this. So the question is, how do we personalize for these users for which we don't know, we don't have any contextual information about? Like, they didn't click on some email newsletter with a link in it. They didn't. They most likely haven't been to the website before. And so, without that kind of additional information and the ability to know anything about why they're arriving at the website, what we came to is that one of the strategies can be actually just coming out and asking the users about why they're at the website. So, and this is where questionnaires come in. Questionnaires are a really great way to ask questions to anonymous users, and based on how much information that they provide, then tailor the experience so that it can adjust to who they are or why they've come to the website. And so that was the first thing I wanted to go over. The second thing was that traditional forms, poll surveys, those kind of instruments have been available to marketers for quite some time. But what we're talking about right now today is something different. Those poll surveys, forms, and they call them questionnaires as well. They might be hosted by like SurveyMonkey, a Google Forms type form. Lots of different companies provide the service, and you can configure them, drop them in your website, and then have a plug and play way to present these forms. But what we're talking about today goes a little bit beyond that. And the restriction that we're trying to break out of is the fact that these types of instruments tend to be, number one, linear, meaning they go from question 1 to question 2 to question 3 in the same order, no matter who they're talking to. And they're uniform so that no matter what a user selects after the first question or second question, it formulaically routes the user to a predetermined question, sort of ignoring what they've selected. And this type of linear and uniform presentation of these type of user feedback is a huge impediment for us to knowing why they've actually come. One other thing is that these third-party drop-in forms, they also lack deep integrations to our content management system. And as you know, one of the things that we're actually trying to do is, if we ask questions of our users and are able to segment them into different categories of users, then what we want to do is actually drive personalization. And if the outcome from the questionnaires and polls, they're not integrated with our content management system, then we can't actually personalize. We can't target, right? And so with the Adobe content management system, what we're going to show is that we integrated the forms with the content management system, and it will be pretty easy for you to see how we can also connect that with target and other personalization capabilities that are in our toolkit. So this is the linear questions. Right, the dynamic questions, recap number 3. So one other thing that we talked about last time is that when we create dynamic questionnaires, one of the real benefits is that as a user traverses through our questionnaire tree, we can pair the traversals of the questionnaires with outcomes that result in these interactions, and then pair that up with using statistics and machine learning and AI to create conditional probabilities. And what this means is that what we can do is, by asking these dynamic questionnaires, we have a digital fingerprint of who the user is. And based on this digital fingerprint, we can basically calculate a number of things. They include things like lead scores. What's the probability that this user is going to actually buy something or ask for more information or fill out a form? What is the propensity index for this interaction? And so this is a huge opportunity I think is overlooked, and something that's frankly not possible if we're sticking with the old traditional linear questionnaires. And the last thing that I wanted to cover was that we talked about the questionnaires. This one example of that game show from long ago where one person was thinking of something and the other person would ask 20 questions to try to figure out who they are or what they're thinking about. And so if we kind of overlay this game onto what we're trying to do, it makes a lot of sense, because what we're trying to do is ask as few questions as possible of our users, and then from the outcome, from what the user has actually chosen, try to figure out, well, what segment does this user belong to? Which products match most closely with this segment? Which which services align with the profile generated by these users' choices? And so, in that example, in part 1, after 20 questions of A or B type answers, that dichotomous questions, we had over 1 million different possible segments, right? So it's incredibly powerful that these questions are able to provide us with such information about our users. So the last thing I wanted to do before going into the demo was just give an example of what we're talking about. I have here an example of a set of, this example is an investor profile. And so what you see on the left is a list of 12 products. Obviously, most organizations have more than 12 products. They could have thousands. But for purposes of this discussion, imagine a company where we have 12 different products. And in the aside from the idea, we have 3 different attributes, right? we have these funds it's split up between institutional or retail type, the volatility level of the fund, which is high, medium, low, and finally ESG. ESG is sort of the environmental social governance aspect of funds that that can span things from sustainability to emissions. So we have 3 different attributes, but it doesn't have to be these, right? We could be talking about inventory, we could be talking about shoes, or stocks, or whatever. But the idea is that we have a set number of products. We need to ask some questions of our users and then figure out which products, based on the segments that we conclude about the user, make most sense to recommend. So in this example, what I wanted to show was that how do we go about creating questionnaire to ask as few questions as possible? So most people, most organizations have a lot more than 3 attributes that describe their services or products. Right here, I just listed type, volatility, and ESG, but there could be so many things, so many other things as well, right? We could be having, what sector they belong to, whether it's a near-term, middle-term, or long-term investment, what the, I don't know, P to E ratio of that fund is. And so you can imagine there could be hundreds and hundreds of different attributes. But I focus on these 3 because I want to show you, even if we have 3 attributes, if we're able to reduce the number of questions and still get to the right recommendations, and properly segment the users, then we know that we have a method of being able to apply these questionnaires, even in situations where there are many more attributes. So in this example, we have type, volatility, and ESG. If we look at type and volatility or risk, what we have here is that if we combine the institutional and retail types with a high, medium, and low volatility, then what we have in the 3rd column are the products that actually match those combinations, right? So institutional high overlaps with products 1, 2, 3, and 4. Institutional and high 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Institutional medium is products 5 and 6. Institutional low does no match at all. And for the retail, it does a lot better job, right? We have high, medium, low risk, pretty much evenly distributing the products. And so what we have is a problem here, because what we found out in part 1 is that one of the challenges of questionnaires is being able to ask questions of our users that, depending on the answer, can equally partition the users into roughly equally divided partitions. And so if we have a lot more products and a lot more attributes, what you'll find is that this type of sparse or clump distribution of products is a lot more pronounced. Here we just have a very small data set, and even here we see that we have a problem. If someone picks institutional, then asking the volatility or risk question next is not going to be that useful. Let's look at the other combination, which is type and ESG. In type and volatility, type and ESG, what we have is we have in this column here with type, and then what I put is what I have here in this column is the ESG focus attribute. And so for institutional, matching with INNOV or these 3 different focuses, we have these types of matches. But we also have a separate set of matches from the retail side that don't distribute evenly. Okay, so we have a problem, and based on this problem, we have to have basically a solution to be able to structure a questionnaire so that we get this even partitioning. So we have we talked about the problem of simple and fixed questionnaires. They tend to require more questions, and they create these sparse clump segments. So what we really want to do is structure a questionnaire so that they're split. So if the question is, are you an institutional or retail investor? If they answer institutional, then we want to ask one question. If they pick retail, we want to ask another question. So institutional, we want to ask, what is your level of risk and volatility? The retail, we want to ask, what is your area of investment focus? Okay, so So what do we have? If we were able to do that based on our data set, then what we find is that we're able to evenly distribute the resulting segments evenly across the different combinations. And so this is what we're trying to do. And this is one of the key things that's missing from those other more traditional forms, polls, and survey type solutions out there right now.
Yeah, I think Inku in the first session, folks were asking questions about how do you know if you're asking good enough questions or if you're writing good enough questions so that you're best understanding the anonymous user on your site. So you listed a couple of examples of how to do that, but it's how do we take the tools and make sure that we are asking the right questions?
Right. I mean, this is the litmus test, right? If you're asking questions and the resulting answers don't evenly partition the segments, then the question is not very good, right? Or it might be good in one circumstance, but not in another circumstance. And so this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to make sure that number one, we basically we consider the different routes that users can take, and being able to ask the correct questions to statistically partition the users into the available segments, but also that we have the tools so that we can actually have the flexibility to make these kind of pivots. Okay, so so that's it for the recap and the summary of the questionnaire. What I'm really excited to do right now is I'm going to break out of this presentation, and I want to show you this demo that we put together. And so I mentioned this last time. Let me see, where is my window? I mentioned this last time that Adobe Experience Manager, here's my window. Let me know if you can't see this, but I think you should. So Adobe Experience Manager is I guess it's the core component of the Adobe Experience Cloud. It's content management system, right? All the other components rely on Adobe Experience Manager to be able to be the source of truth for content, and basically being able to actually drive the dynamic experiences based on whether we're using target or whatever strategies that we may be having. And so it's really the pivotal aspect of the Adobe Marketing Cloud. So what we have here, what I want to show first of all, is that with Adobe Experience Manager, it has an extremely flexible plugin module architecture. And so what PiSrc has done is we've created this questionnaire component. And so what I want to show you is that how can we build a questionnaire? Okay, so I think we want to do a couple of things, but first of all, we want to make sure that this experience is fairly painless, right? We want to make sure that that the authors can drive and configure these questionnaires without having to go through a 3-month development cycle with some third party or or engaging something like that. We want to make sure that the authors have some control and ability to affect the outcome of these questionnaires. And so what I want to do first is actually create a brand new questionnaire. Okay, so I have this folder called Adobe Questions. I already have a test questionnaire, but I'm going to create a new one. And all you have to do is create. I'm going to select page, and here it is, Fütprint flow page. Fütprint is the name of our this questionnaire plugin. And so let's see, let's call this the Adobe Questionnaire Demo. And you can add tags and all sorts of other great things. But right now I'm just gonna keep it simple. And I created this questionnaire. Okay, Adobe Questionnaire Demo. And when I edit this, the first thing that I see is a very simple layout. Flow start, flow end. And basically the questionnaire starts and ends. If you don't recognize this, this is basically the interface for the workflow builder in AEM. And we at PiSrc, we realized that this is a really excellent interface because it's integrated with the product, but also it allows us drag and drop functionality. So what I want to do first of all is actually just drag a question into the questionnaire builder. The first question, it defaults to 2 answers, but if I click on edit, I can ask any question that I want. So if I say it's Q123, you know, what is your favorite color? Oh, you know what? Let me go back to the example we were using. Are you an institutional or retail investor? There, I had that in my autocomplete before. And this could be part of a single question, or it could be part of a group of questions. But in this case, I'm going to leave it a single question. Let's just leave it at two options. Okay. Option one is going to be institutional. Option two is going to be retail. Okay. And you know, you could create a third one called, if you wanted to create a third one, you could simply just do three options and add, you know, individual if you wanted. And the other thing that you can do is, actually, let me put it back to two options for now because I only have two pictures. Is you can attach pictures to these choices so that there's a more of a visual experience for the users. So I have two pictures. One is institutional. There it is. It's a picture of a bunch of banks. Option two is it's retail. And so if I go to the DAM and I browse my photos, there is a picture of a store that had, here you go, retail.jpg. Okay, great. So I have my first question. How do you use this questionnaire? Let me add one more thing here, because remember in our example before we had are you an institutional or retail investor? And then the second question was like what type of risk or volatility or risk matches your profile. So what I can do is if they pick institutional, I can ask one question. So I'm going to drag a question over here. And if they pick retail, I'm going to ask a whole different set of questions. So let me configure this real quickly. So first is I'll put Q234. Question was, let me see, what is risk? Okay, let's say please, which let me see, which of the following best best describes your risk profile? So maybe I'll have three options in this case, right? And I'll say it's I think it was like high, medium, and low, right? Medium, and low. And then for option one, I'm gonna put footprint. I can put any photo that I want here. I have a high risk, a guy in a skydiving. I have option two, medium. It's a picture of a guy. I think he's diving. He's here somewhere. Jump. There you go. And then option three, I have this cute frog picture. Where is it? Okay. High, medium, low. Done. There you go. Second question. It was let me see, what was that? What was the we said, what is your area of focus, right? So what is your area of focus? So let's ask that question. What is your area of focus? Investment focus, right? Now I don't know much about finance. So these questions don't may not make a lot of sense, but I'm just trying to say that, you know, what we're showing is how you can on the fly create these questions. And what was the answers again? That was right, innovation. It can be my focus can be ESG related, and my focus can be yeah, government. Okay, so let me just put a picture to each of these. The other thing that I wanted to show is what was it? Event innovative, right? Innovative. Yep. And then ESG is something to do with sustainability and environment. So I have a nice picture of forest here somewhere. Let's say, where did it go? Environment. Oh, Okay, this would work. Wind turbines, and then government. Okay, so last one, footprint, and let's just pick. So let's see, government. I can just pick. I'll pick this this big rock. There you go. Okay, so I have two. I have a first question, and I've just created dynamically two other questions. And so hopefully what's clear here is that you can actually just build out these questions, and depending on the answers, you can add additional questions. A couple other things I want to show you is that ultimately, at the end of this journey, we want to make certain recommendations based on the segments that we conclude this user to belong to based on their selections. The other thing I'm going to show you in a second is this rule engine. So this rule engine allows you to create more sophisticated conclusions based on the results, the output. So you can say something out of here and this result. You can make conditional statements using and or logic to route users to the various recommendations. So I created this this questionnaire, and what I want to do is show how if I go to a website, you know, this We Retail website comes with every single AEM instance. And so what I want to do is I want to go to a page. Let's go to the Dutch version of this We Retail website. Or I'm sorry, this is German. And in order to use the questionnaire I just built, all you have to do is go to the component library, and you'll see the questionnaire right there, questionnaire. So I'm just going to drag it on the page. Okay, dragging it on the page. We can give it a name, and let's call it Adobe Demo. And you have to click. You have to choose the flow. The flow is actually the questionnaire we just built. So recall that I put it into this Fütprint folder. There was an Adobe questions, and then there was this Adobe questionnaire demo we just created. So selecting that item. You can also create a placeholder image and a number of other things, but I'm going to keep it simple for now. Okay, and then what do we get? Well, let's view this. View as published. And just from that brief creation of the workflow, we have a questionnaire. Are you an institutional retail investor? Remember, this is what we just created. Let me bring up that other window just so you know. Are you a retail or institutional investor? If I pick institutional, it's going to ask this next question, which is which of the following describes your risk profile? So let's select that. Next. There you go. These are the three pictures that I picked, right? Or it could be three products. We have this integration with the Commerce Integration Framework with AEM so that you can pick these different outcomes, but you can also overlay it with your Commerce Integration Framework database so that it can actually pick products in the library. Going to this route, if you pick retail, so we're going to let the user click back, and if they pick retail, right, it's going to allow the user to very simply pick, what is your area of investment focus, and so hopefully this shows you how easy it is to build a questionnaire, and it looks pretty great. As part of any kind of enterprise implementation, you probably want your own CSS, your own design. You probably want to hook it into your own product, product database. So maybe you have an ERP or something that you want to integrate where you want to actually pull these products directly. So those are some of the next steps. But what I wanted to show you was that it's how easy it is to build out a questionnaire. So if I go back to this questionnaire builder, what I did ahead of time was actually build a questionnaire just so that we don't spend a lot of time building out the questionnaire during this demo. So what I did is I created this questionnaire. It's called Who You Are, and the questionnaire is still pretty simple, but basically I added. You see that it has a lot of the same questions that I just said. Are you an institutional retail investor? But I also added these recommendations so that if you pick high for your comfort, what that best describes your comfort and risk. If you pick high, then it's going to give you this recommendation, right? And if you click edit, you'll see that there is it's going to recommend this fund, PIPRF. for the PiSrc Performance Fund. And I picked a picture for that already. If you pick medium, it's going to pick a different fund, which is PIFAM, PiSrc Future Fund. And then I did the same thing for the innovation, for the ESG. And then also this one right here, this is the default. So if none of the traversals result in a match, then we want to basically allow users to get this recommendation. So just to show you how this is working, I'm gonna traverse from are you an institutional retail investor to this what is your important area for your investment focus, and then click ESG. So this is the workflow that I want to use now. And so just like before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a page. Let's go to the English page here, and hopefully I already used this before. Let me go to the to this page here, Language Masters. Okay, yeah, it's a clean page. There's no other questionnaires on here. So what I'm going to do is just like before, I'm going to drag a questionnaire onto this page, but I'm going to refer it to a different flow, the one that I had previously selected that has the recommendations. And so let's say real questions. And I'm going to pick the flow, which is this who you are approach. Okay, I'm sorry, it was start page. Select. Okay, and I could add a placeholder image. I'm not going to do that for now. I'm just going to go like this. Okay. And here we go. So if I view as published, you see the questionnaire come up, right? You also see there's also opportunities to add supplemental information. So in questionnaires, if you give more context to why you're asking some of these questions, you'll find that you get a better engagement. In this case, we said, knowing this helps us better match an advisor knowledgeable about your business. That makes sense, right? There's some people who are experts in institutional investing and others in retail investing. So I want to go to the retail investing for now. What is your important area for your investment focus? And so if you recall this, we're at this point right here. And I configured that if they picked ESG, then it's going to make this recommendation. And so what happens if you do that? So if you click ESG, next. So PI ESG fund, the PiSrc Environmental Social Governance Fund best matches your profile. So that's the first thing that we can do here. Going back to my questionnaire. So I showed you about questions. I showed you about recommendations. There's another thing here, which is links. So links are very important because questionnaires can be pretty complicated. And what you'll find is that you'll want to reuse your segments of your questionnaire. So certain questions, they tend to be reusable. And so what I did is I created a supplemental questionnaire in my Fütprint Who You Are library called Approach, okay? So if I edit this flow, what you'll see is that I just have a couple of questions. What I wanted to know within this sub-questionnaire is, what kind of person is this? So I asked the questions. They're not related to a fund per se, but they're related to perhaps qualities about this individual, their engagement style that might be pertinent in how we engage with this user. So the first question would be, what approach makes most sense when making a decision? The first answer says, let me open this up. The first one says, see the big picture, then discuss the details. Okay, big picture person. The next answer says, I prefer to think things through in detail. And I'll show a different picture there. And this is similar to before. There's no conditionality in this case, so they're just two questions, one after the other, okay? So this would be more standard. I have here, when making a decision, which of the following is most useful? And I have three options in this case: key facts, data and tables, or success stories. Okay, so I have 5 questions here. They're linked over 2 separate questions. And what comes out of this is this rule. And so what is a rule? Well, a rule is our enablement for the author to create more sophisticated use case conditions. So I have what I have here is I have two options. The first option, what I'm doing is I'm going to use OR logic. So if this, or and I can keep adding as many as I want. If any of these conditions hold true, then if any of these conditions hold true, then do this, execute this outcome. Otherwise, and it's important to have a otherwise, because the otherwise is like everything else is going to fall into that category. Otherwise, go to this other place. So you can imagine you can build pretty sophisticated and complex logic here using and or logic. But what I have here is a very simple case where if a user actually selects the see the big picture, or they select the success stories, references, and discussions, either one of those, then they're going to get this recommendation, which is the PiSrc Biotech Fund. Otherwise, we're going to go back to another link, and this link basically goes back to the original. It allows the user to continue in the original workflow that we created, right? So I'm sorry, where did that go? Here we go. It allows the user to flow back into any node within this questionnaire tree. So you can really imagine how sophisticated and complex you can make these questionnaires, right? Because you can have these sub modules that you direct people to, and depending on the outcome, you can bring them back into your main questionnaire. And you can do a lot of things. The use of and or logic and default settings allows you to be able to control the flow of users throughout your questionnaire. And so this is all pretty sophisticated stuff. And you can't do this on any of those other those form platforms that I mentioned earlier. So
you're saying that you can reuse several questions from different questionnaires and kind of integrate them with one certain questionnaire if they have something to do with them.
Yeah, and some of the I've seen this before. I think it was in what was it? Form Monkey, or I don't know, one of those. They have
Survey
like
Monkey.
there you go, Survey Monkey. They have like a I think it was them, but I think they have a question library. And I don't know, and you can basically, if you're in a pinch and you need a questionnaire really quickly, you can just go there and pick out some questionnaires and build it that way. We're talking about something similar but different, because we're not just talking about reusable questionnaires, right? Reusable sub questionnaires. What we're saying is using those reusable questionnaires and embedding it as part of another questionnaire, and depending on the outcome of that sub questionnaire, either flowing the user back into that original questionnaire, or providing a recommendation because we have sufficient information to properly segment this user.
And then that information in itself that you gather from it can have the potential to help kind of paint that portrait of the user that we were talking about in the first session.
Right, absolutely. So what I wanted to do before getting too much further ahead was actually show this, because we saw this picture, right? While you're an institutional or retail investor. And let me bring this up. So this is the questionnaire, right? And we have this nice progress bar, so people know how far along they are. And in my new questionnaire, the one that let me close some of these windows because I'm getting confused. Are you in? Is this the one that we built? Yes, this is the one that we built. Okay, so I showed you that if you go, if you picked retail and ESG, it takes you to that solar wind farm. But if you don't, then it's going to go to a different outcome, right? Because it's going to miss either the innovation or ESG recommendation. So let's do that. I want to show that default flow. So I'm going to go to retail. Next. And here's ESG innovation. This one should result in this recommendation, this catch-all recommendation down here, which I put, it's the mission fund. So let me see, the MIS. So if I click next, PIMIS, the PiSrc Mission Fund, okay? If I go back, The other thing was the showing you how that you can chain these questionnaires together. I'm going to go from institutional investor, and then select this low risk profile so that I can get be forwarded to this other tree. So let me go back here. I'm back to the first question. Click institutional. Next. And then I want to be part of what was the low profile, right? The low risk profile. So I'm going to click low. Click next. And there you go. What approach makes the most decision? So this question is not in this tree, right? It's part of another questionnaire altogether, right? It's do I still have that window open? I don't have. I know it's here. Here it is. Okay, let me put it right here where I can remember. Yeah, it has these two questions, right? What approach makes the most sense? And are you a big picture, small, or detail-oriented person? So here, if I pick if in my rules I said if you prefer to think things through in detail, or what was the other condition? My rule prompt said if I like to think through in see the big picture, then discuss the details, or it's success stories, then I'm going to give them this recommendation, right? So if I pick big picture, and then it's an or, so it doesn't matter what I pick here, right? Then it's going to give me this PiSrc bio fund. Okay. If I go back and I don't follow hit one of those two conditions, so in this case, let's say I'm a detail-oriented person, and I like success. What was that? Key facts. Then now it's taking me back to the original workflow at a certain point in the original workflow. In this case, it's taking me back to this node right here, and that's how I configured it. And so now you can continue on, and depending on what you select, if I select innovation at this point, then I'm gonna recommend the PiSrc Technology Fund, or I can have a rule engine right here and then have something more sophisticated. So if I pick innovation, it's going to have the PiSrc Technology Fund. There you go. It's I think this is what's missing right now. I mean, with the questionnaires and forms, we really have to do something more than what we've been doing, because I think the value of forms right now is not it's not basically rewarding the user for the time and information that they're providing. And so really, if we're able to better formulate this questionnaire to be adaptive, I think we can get so much further in accurately segmenting users, so that we can better make recommendations and think about how best to engage with the users. And that's pretty much it for the demo. I wanted to put up this last slide so that you know how to contact us. Into the slide. Let me see. There you go. Again, part 1 and part 2 will be in this pisrc.com/questionnaire page if you wanted to view more. And that's all I had. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to even do a one-on-one demo, because I know that this is not like the fund example is not exactly, may not be relevant to your business, whether you're talking, maybe you're a car manufacturer, or maybe you're a firm providing technology services. So it depends on what your business is. But I think that whatever business it is, and I think that questionnaires can be a really essential part of better engaging and personalizing for users, particularly anonymous users. Okay, great.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and hope you have a great Thanksgiving.